Okay, so the first entities would be the first entity, which is the which is considered to be the main entity for a claim center is claim entity,
Mm,
claim.etx. So this is the top level entity.
mm,
Okay, so whenever a person has met with some mishappening, or suppose let's take an example of personal auto. If the
mhm,
car has met with an accident, right? So the
mhm,
user will approach the customer service representative that so and so place the accident has been occurred. This is my policy number, and I want to claim my policy like this. And these are the damages which has happened to my car. Okay,
mhm,
so what CSR, customer service representative will do? It will open the claim center. Okay, whatever information the user has been given, right? It will feed in those information in the claim center somewhere. So
mhm.
where the place where the customer service representative is feeding the data in the claim center, we call it as a first notice of loss. Okay,
Mhm,
this is first notice of loss, or FNOL. Okay,
mhm,
so now going forward, we'll say that the when the CSR creates an FNOL. Okay, so when the CSR creates an FNOL, it has to feed in the customer data, the claim data, the
mhm,
injuries, and the damages that has been occurred. What is the policy number? Okay, of the particular means for which you are filing the claim. So
mhm,
there are certain steps of the FNL, like screen one, there you need to provide the details of the policy. Screen
mhm,
two, you need to provide the details of the risks. Oh, sorry, the damages. Screen
mhm.
three, you need to create some activities on this in that particular claim. Okay, so after you have iterated through all the screens, right? At last, you will click on the finish button. Okay,
Mhm,
so when you click on the finish button, this data which you have given, right? This will be processed as a transaction. Okay, which we have learned in the transaction section, right? Bundle section. That
mhm.
it will the entire data will be processed as a complete transaction, as a only single transaction. Okay, and it will be saved as a database in the claim entity. Okay, the entire data is saved in the database, whichever you have given. It is saved inside the claim entity.
So the FNOL screens are provided in Guidewire,
Yes, it comes in the out of the box. I'll show you these screens also. So how
but
it looks like.
say if we are having a mobile application and the user is, I mean the customer is submitting that data, it will not be the Guidewire screens, right? It will be a
It
third, I mean their own customized application that might be integrating with Guidewire.
yes. Then in that place, the front end portal would be just to get the information. It will send the information to the backend to the Guidewire in the JSON or XML format, and Guidewire will create a claim. Okay, or
Mhm,
create an FNOL.
mhm,
Okay, of its own, and it will save all that data which has been coming from the front end system in the claims entity. Okay,
mhm,
so whenever this process is finished, the creation of the FNOL process is finished, right? So once the process is finished, a claim is generated. Okay,
mhm,
with a claim number.
mhm,
Okay, because we are saving the entire data in the claims entity, so we have an object of the claim readily available in the database, right?
mhm,
So, and it will automatically generate a claim number and associate it with that particular object of the claim. Okay,
mhm,
so that we can reference that particular claim for further reference, right? We can have a unique identification number. We call it as a claim number.
mhm,
Okay, now claim is the main entity, and it's not like all the things are being saved in the claim. Some of the data which is coming from the front end portal, or which is fed in by the customer service representative in the FNOL, right? Those might also be stored in the entities which are the foreign key to the claim entity. Okay,
mhm,
some things might be stored which are the array key to the claim entities, but the root entity is the claim,
mhm, mhm,
right? So that's what we are talking about here. So a claim can have one or many contacts involved. Okay, it can be in the contacts. It can be the person who driver. Okay, it can be the customer service representative who has taken the claim, right? created the FNOL. In this case, I'm not talking about the front end application. Okay, I'm talking about the regular. Okay, by phone call, someone has created the claim. Okay, the CSR has created the claim for the person. So that scenario. Okay, so CSR guy would be the one. Okay, the third party liability. Suppose due to your car accident, someone else got injured. Okay, not you, not the might be someone from the second party got injured because of the mistake done by you. So that party will be also be a contact. Okay, so there is a contact entity which can have one-to-many relationship with the claim. Okay, and each contact can have multiple roles. Like suppose this when I'm talking about roles can be, this can be claimant, it can be the payer. Okay, it can be the customer service representative. These are the roles. Okay, which are assigned to these contacts. While creating contact, I need to specify the role also. What is the significance of that particular contact? Okay, after this there is one more entity, incident. Okay, which will, what is the incident entity? I'll tell you. So incident generally uh, stores the data about the damages done. Okay, so whatever damages has been done on that particular claim, right? So it will have one-to-many relationships with the claim entity. So one claim can have multiple incidents. You can see here the car bonnet has damaged. Okay, the person has been injured. Okay, and your car got collide with some building, and building also set on fire. So these are all the incidents. These are the damages. So you can specify as many as incidents you want in the claim, right? Then there is an exposure. Okay, I'll tell you about the exposure in a while. Yeah, so suppose if we want to track, suppose we want to track these incidents, so that for each of these incidents, uh, we want to track that for each of these incidents, the payments has been done to the claimant. Okay, and smoothly, and all the activities related to this incident has been taken care. Okay, so for that purpose, we will have exposure. Okay, there is an entity of exposure. So why we have there is no physical relevance of this exposure, but we create these exposures so that we can track the payments, okay, to the claimant. These entities are used just for tracking purposes, because exposures has its own statuses as well. So that we can, what we can do is uh, we can assign the incident to the exposure, and we can assign the checks to the exposure. Okay, so one exposure can be assigned to multiple incidents. Suppose we want to group these two incidents, and we want to create a one exposure, right? So incidents are two. Okay, damages are two, but we want to track it as only a single in exposure. Means on a single basis, I want to track it down. I don't want to break it and then I want to investigate. I want to club these two incidents, and then I want to create a check for these two incidents together. Okay, so that's why multiple incidents can be created to a single exposure. So that exposures entities are created for just for the tracking purposes, from incidents to the claim. Oh, sorry, to the payment. Okay, so each exposure would have reserve lines associated with it. Okay, so let me show you the reserve lines. You can see in this diagram, you can see with each exposure we have reserve lines. What is reserve lines? So suppose we have created there is a car damage, right? So we have created for each incident, we have created three exposure. Okay, we want to track down everything separately, so we created three exposures. Now what we have to do is we have to create reserve lines. What is reserve lines? Reserve line is the maximum amount which insurance company has kept aside to pay to the claimant. Okay, it will not exceed to for that particular damage. It will not exceed to that particular uh, beyond that particular amount. If the damage is, if suppose there is a coverage of bodily injury, okay, and user has taken a limit of $1,000, okay, during the policy creation. Now, during the creation of the claim, right, user has broken his hand and his expenses is $500, okay, but it has taken $1,000, right, but he has created fake bills, okay, fake bills of $1,000. It's not like if he will provide the bills to the insurance company, right, $1,000, it will pay the $1,000 to the claimant. Why? Because he has taken that particular limit amount. Okay, insurance company will still analyze the damage. Okay, if it has the limit amount of $1,000 also, it will analyze the damage. Okay, and it will come up with some amount that based on the damage, this is the maximum amount that we are going to pay, no matter what is your limit amount. Your limit amount is 1,000. You are saying that these are the expenses, but based on our investigation, this is the maximum expenses which you have incurred, like that. Okay, so reserve lines is nothing but the maximum amount which the insurance company pays for each exposure. Okay, so one exposure can have multiple reserve lines as well. Okay, so suppose you have created a reserve line. Okay, you are an adjuster. Okay, I'm working on a claim and I created a reserve line based on the investigation. Now claimant came to me, okay, and he raised an objection and he said that he gave me some proofs or some documents that, okay, and I'm convinced that, okay, yes, these documents are valid. Then I want to increase the amount of that particular exposure, right? So what I will do is I will create new reserve lines. So one exposure can be associated to multiple reserve lines. Okay. Yes. And once the reserve line is created, on top of the reserve lines, we have, so all these things are connected. You can see here, incident is connected with exposure, exposure is connected with reserve lines, and reserve lines is created with check. So once everything is created, reserve line is created, exposure is created for each incident, then we need to create the check. Okay, check means if when we create a check, right, the amount will be deducted. Suppose I created a check of $200 and my reserve line is $500, right? So the amount will be deducted from the reserve line and it will be applied to the check and it will be sent to the third party system or the bank system, so that bank could pay that particular amount to the claimant. That's how this whole picture works. Okay, so there is an integration involved in this, but as if we are talking about the configuration, the internal connections, so when a check is created on top of a reserve line. Okay. Yeah, so this exposure, reserve line, and check are the entities which we use just to track down the payments to the claimant. Okay, and we have activities. Suppose on a claim, if we want they want to have some investigation on the particular claim as soon as the claim is filed, right? So, and second step is, after the investigation is done, we want someone to collect the documents or something. Okay, and third step is we want someone to create a reserve line. Okay, so these are the set of steps, set of activities which we have to take care for that particular claim, right? And each activity can have an escalation date or a due date, right? And each activity can have means it can have a different assignee who is assigned to this particular activity. So one claim can have multiple activities inside it. So there is an activity entity. Okay, there is a document entity which is having one-to-many relationship with the claim. So so this is simple, right? So when a claim is created, so the insurance company can ask for multiple documents, right? It can be provided directly by the claimant, or it can be uploaded by the CSR as well, right? Uh, it can be shared on an email by the claimant to the CSR, and it can be uploaded to the claim center or billing center. Oh, sorry, claim center. Notes. So notes is also an entity, and it is an array key from the claim. So what it will store, if we want to tag the claim, and if we have some comments, so that suppose I am working on some claim and I'm leaving the organization the very next day, or I'm on the vacation, someone else need to operate on that claim, right? So what I will do, I'll go to the note section, add the notes, okay, add any comments, whatever my thought process is on that particular claim, right? So that the next user, whenever next adjuster, whoever will be working on that claim, right, they will get all the comments on that matter. So matter is the case, suppose there is an accident happen, right? So it can happen that there is a coverage, third party liability coverage, right? So there might be a situation that both the parties has gone to the court for the mistake, that they are not willing to accept their own mistake and they are putting it on each other, and might be they have gone to the court and filed a case against themselves. That can also happen, right? So in that case, whose insurance company has to pay the third party liability coverage? Is it the person A or person B? So it will be decided only when the case results come, right? So suppose person B is guilty. So person B is liable for all the damages. Person B's insurance company would be paying all the damages to the person A. Otherwise, person A would pay to the person B. So some issues, some claims can have some matters involved in it. So there can be means it has one to many relationship with the claims entity. So one claim can have multiple matters. Okay, if all the matters are resolved, then only the claim is processed and the money is paid. A check is created. So if you want to see from screen perspective, right? So whatever we have talked about here, right? Contacts, incidents, exposures, reserve lines, activities, all these things, right? These will be listed. Suppose this is a claim file, right? This is the entire claim file. So for each and every section would be listed here in the location group. Okay. So you can see there is an exposure tab here, which will list down all the exposures related to this claim. Okay. This is a claim file. And there is a parties involved section, so it will have all the parties which are involved in the claim. Okay. There is a policy section which will have the policy information on which the claim has been created. Litigation is nothing but this matter only, matter screen. So it will list down all the matters which are there on the claim. Note section corresponds to this. Okay. So loss detail will contain the basic detail of the claim, like at what date, at what location the claim has, no, sorry, the incident has been occurred, or that particular, on which date this particular accident has been occurred, right? So all this information, basic information, would be directly stored in the claim entity and it will be displayed in the loss details. So this is how my claim file looks like. And we have a summary screen. So you can see here we have a summary screen which will give us the overview of the entire claim process. Okay, it looks somewhat like this. It will tell us about the status of the claim, loss date, notice date, loss location, description. Okay, if we have taken any outside services, suppose we have taken a towing service from a towing company, so the vendor name would be listed. Okay, here if we have taken any outside services, all the exposures whatever we have created, right, it can be associated. So you can see here the exposure. For exposure also we can have multiple claimants, right? Suppose there are two people involved in the claim. One is the driver, okay, and one is who is the owner of the car. Suppose whatever damages has happened to the car, okay, the amount has to be, company will pay the amount to the car owner, right, not the driver. But if suppose driver has injured himself, so the insurance company would pay the driver directly, right? It would not pay the car owner for that particular damage, right? So similarly, so we what we will do is for these two coverages we'll create two different exposures so that we can assign these two things to two different claimants. You can see here there is a collision uh, collision coverage, right? So we have a claimant Robert Fardley, but for bodily injury we have William Weeks, and for liability also we have William Weeks. Okay, so that the checks which would be created for these by this coverage and these two exposures, right, it will go to William Weeks, it will not go to Robert Fardley. Okay, so that's the reason why we create different exposures to track down the payment to multiple claimants. So this is the work inside the work plan. All the activities is listed. Okay, and each and every activity has a due date. Okay, if we'll open the
So
activity
the due
for
date
each
is automatically assigned, or we have to give that manually?
Yeah, there are activity assignment rules. Okay, which we in the activity assignment rules we have to assign the due dates, and we have to assign the activities also which we want to. Like suppose I'll give you an example. In the rule sets there are activity assignment rules which will create the activity also. Okay, and it will assign the activity also, and it will create, means it will assign the due date as well. Okay, so we have a concept of activity patterns. We'll go to the administration. Okay, I have opened this ClaimCenter application after a very long time, so it might hang or it might take some time to load. Okay, now in the administration I'll go to the business settings. Sorry, business settings. Then I'll see activity patterns. Okay, so I can for each and every activity, suppose I want to create a different type of activity, right? For that, I can define an activity pattern. Like suppose there is a type of activity, create email, create recovery email bill. Suppose there is uh, I want to have this activity which will create the email for a recovery bill, right? So I'll create a new activity pattern and I'll specify all these fields. Okay, the subject of the activity, okay, and the unique identifier code of this particular activity. Now I have this activity pattern dates, target days. Target days is 2. 2 means suppose if I created this activity today, then the due date will be after 2 days. Okay. Escalation day, if you suppose I create it today, then the escalation date is after 3 days. Okay, means 2 days the due date, means today's 14th,
it will escalate it.
Yeah, on 14th it will has to be finished by 16th, but after 3 more days it will escalate. Suppose 16, right? 6 on 19th. Okay, on 19th it will escalate this activity.
Oh, it will escalate on 19th or 17th.
I actually I'm confused a little bit about it. I need to check it. I'll check it and get back to you whether it is adding to this or whether it is taking it from the starting. Yeah, I'll check it and let you know.
Mhm.
But here is the place where we give the due date and the uh,
Mhm.
escalation date. Okay, and we can also define the importance also of this type of activities as high. Once we create the activity pattern, right, we can, from the coding side, we can create the activity, we can write the logic to create the activity, we can create a new activity object, okay, with the new keyword and with this particular activity pattern, and that activity
So
we can assign it to the claim
you create that new activity in Studio, and
in the
then
classes, in the
that's
classes.
what in classes, and that's what is reflected in the admin screen. You cannot add anything from the admin screen,
No,
right?
no, 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 it's other way around. So first thing first is, whenever I get a requirement for a new activity, right, so what I
Mhm.
will do is, from the admin screen I will create a new activity pattern, okay, so that I could define the subject description, I could define the due date,
Mhm.
escalation date, all these things, okay.
Mhm.
But I should have a business scenario also, no, business logic also, when I need to trigger this activity.
Mhm.
Okay, there can be a business scenario that, okay, when, if the customer files the claim, and he he's having the bodily injury coverage, okay, in his policy, then this activity should be created. We are
Mhm.
defining the activity here, but we are not, sorry, we are declaring the activities in the activity pattern tab, but we are
Mhm.
not defining the business logic where we need to trigger this activity. You got my point?
Mhm.
So you can see, when you don't see anywhere when it is created, when this,
Mhm.
you know that, okay, but if I'll create this activity, this is this is how the activity is created, but when it is created I haven't given that information,
Mhm.
that when trigger point of the activity I have to give it from the code. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you from the gosu scratchpad, or I'll show you from the existing code somewhere. Might be we are calling the activity, creating the activities. Okay, we'll see if there. Uh, I'll see if there is any place where we are creating the activity. Work plan. You can see there is a work plan rules, right?
Mhm.
So here might be we are creating some activities. Let's see. Okay, there is a claim entity object. I told you, right, there, on one claim it has one to many, activity has one to many relationship with the claim, right? So we have a claim object here, and we have a method create activity from pattern. Okay, so we are calling this method here, and we are giving the activity pattern name,
Mhm.
okay, which we have defined in the admin screen. Okay, so claim acceptance. So here they are calling this claim acceptance activity pattern. Somewhere they might have, they might have so this is the code. Okay, this is the activity pattern code. So as you can see, for each activity there is an activity pattern code right here. So by
Mhm.
activity pattern code, we are checking from the database and getting the activity pattern, and then creating that activity out of that activity pattern. Okay,
Mhm.
and assigning it to the claim. So this is the statement which will create an activity for that particular activity pattern on top of that claim.
Mhm.
This is that statement. Okay, I need to check it thoroughly about which code. This is claim acceptance, right? So wherein we are having this code as claim acceptance, I need to open each and every activity pattern and then check, but it's done by this. Okay, so now you have defined when from the
Mhm.
code at this point of code. Whenever, so this is a work plan rule. So whenever a claim is created, okay, this work plan rule is executed. Okay,
Mhm.
so because when, as soon as the claim is created, or as soon as the exposure is created, or as soon as the matter is created, right? This because claim, exposure, matter, these are the root entities. So this
Mhm.
work plan will be triggered. Okay, and based on the initial condition, these activities will be created.
And how often do we work on these work plans, Tarun?
Suppose someone, if we want to have a set of activities, right? And it depends on client to client also, and it
Mhm.
depends on their organizational structure as well. Suppose as soon as the claim is created, right, FNOL is created by the representative, so there can be an activity generated to its supervisor, so that he
Mhm.
can review on that claim. Okay, just a review, and pass
Mhm.
on, he will complete that activity. Okay, and then pass on that, as soon as he will complete that activity, again we can have an activity, new activity, which will be assigned to the adjuster, so that he can review and he can do the claim investigation, like that. Okay,
Mhm.
so it depends on this business to business. It is used very often. So you, in your interview, you can say that you have worked on activity. It's good that if you include the activity and work plan in your resume, right? Because we
Mhm.
have discussed it. So you might, till now, you might have got an idea that how the activities and work plan works.
Mhm. And say, Tarun, if I want to describe the flow as per the code. So when we start creating the claim, where is the entry point in the code? So first it comes to the work plan, or does
No,
it
no,
go
no.
to
It will
validation?
not. It will not go to the work plan. It will not go to the work plan
So would
until
you be able to
it will
explain
go to
that?
the claim process.
So that would be a main class.
Yes, or process class. So it will go to first thing first is, it will first go to the, whenever you are creating the claim, right?
Mhm.
Code wise, it will first go to the PCF files, on which PCF files you are into.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, you enter the dates and all those things, and you enter submit,
Mhm.
right? So
Okay,
when you hit
when you
submit,
enter submit. Mhm.
mhm,
So those are the generated files. I think we don't have access to change those files. If we want to suppose during the submit, if we want to perform some operations, right? So
mhm,
when we click on submit, right, these rules are run in the backend one by one. So that's
mhm.
the behavior. Yeah. So, and
If
these
I
rules.
want to debug something or just want to understand the existing flow, how the application they configured their application. I mean, in Java, what I can do is I
Mhm.
can keep some debug points and
Yes, yes, you
different
can
level.
debug, keep
So
the
once
debug.
I have a submit button, it might come to controller, and then from controller it might go to a service or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something like that, right? So,
Here in Guidewire, because this is not something which is from the scratch, and some files are hidden as well, like some files which are in with .java notation, right? Those are the hidden files. So that's why
but
we
how will
cannot.
I know? Say some I'm getting some error and I want to debug. So how will I know which module I need to go and check? Say if it's a PCF file, or is it
In the
rules?
loggers, yeah, in the loggers, whenever suppose something is error out, right? So in the loggers, it will give you the file names. Okay, so you'll go to the file and you will check, okay, which file has triggered that. In the loggers, you will get that information, and you will have you have the feasibility to put the debug points here as well. Okay, so
But
when I'm
there should be a flow, right? So once I submit the button, first assignment rules or whatever rule sets we have, it runs first the assign rule sets, and then it goes to this next step, whatever it is.
yeah, that's what I'm
Submit
saying.
transfer.
That's what I'm saying, because all the classes are not visible to us, so
Mhm.
will not be able to I'll not be able to properly tell you the complete flow, at least in here in the claim center. Why? Because some of the classes which are there, which are not readily, we don't know that, okay, this is the button. Okay, we can see the logic of that button. uh, I'll show you how we can take that. There is a claim.js file, right? So
Mhm.
suppose we'll say, okay, we want to suppose we'll go to the FNO one. Okay, .pcf
Mhm.
file. So first, this is the wizard, which is the sequence of the screens. Okay, which we user has to fill in.
Mhm.
And suppose we are in the last step, save,
Mhm.
where we are saving the claims data.
Mhm.
I'll go to the last step, basic info, loss details, summary. Yeah. Oh, okay, this one, save and assign. Okay, so this is the PCF file.
Mhm.
Suppose I open this PCF file. It doesn't have any save button. Let me open some other PCF file. This one, summary screen. What happened? Got hanged. Okay, let's suppose to take an example of this screen only. Okay, so this screen will process something, right? On a click of a button, we are running some methods, right? So let's suppose say we are running this go to full wizard. I'm not able to see the claim button right now. I'll check it for when we'll be creating the FNOL, right? I'll be checking it.
So when you're
So
clicking that go to full wizard, can you
yeah,
go back?
yeah. When we're clicking on go to full wizard, right? So we have an action.
So,
Okay,
uh-huh.
so we'll go to the return to full wizard.
So
So you can
how
see
do I go to that
these are
particular?
the dot class files. Yeah.
No,
So these are the dot class files.
how did you come to this class? I mean, control. Did you hit
Okay.
any
Control yeah, left mouse click.
control left mouse click? Okay.
Okay. Control click. So you will go to that particular method.
Control
But
click.
here you can see because this control click.
Mm-hmm.
You'll
Okay.
go to that particular method, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
only see the definition or sorry, declaration here, but you will not be able because this is a compiled code, and there is nowhere in Guidewire it will be in the dot class format. Either what you have to do is you have to decompile it using the decompiler. Okay, then you will be able to see it, but we don't go that deeper in Guidewire, and Guidewire doesn't recommend also to decompile the classes and do the changes on their classes. That's why Guidewire has come up with these rules. Okay, so if we want something, suppose we want to create a new exposures. Okay, so suppose we want to create a new exposures. As soon as the exposure entity is created, I want to run some business logic based on the exposure. So I will do it in the pre-update rules. So we have an exposure pre-update rules, right? So I will run those business logics here. Okay, so if my application is
Uh,
erroring out, yeah.
my question is, now in PCF file, we have that method saying that, okay, when you hit this button, go back to call this method and it will take back to your original screen or whatever wizard.
Yes,
Right?
yes, yes. Yeah.
So in when I'm creating that button,
Mhm.
how do I know that I need to call this particular method?
You have to define, you have defined it here, no? In the action tab in the
Yeah,
PCF
but
file.
how will I know wizard dot return to full wizard is the method I need to call?
So these are you as a developer, we don't touch the core of the application. This comes out in the out of the box.
But I do have to give the uh,
So what you will
action
do,
here.
if suppose you want to create a new button here, right?
Mhm,
So as a change, you want to create a new button.
mhm,
I'll show you. You can change the behavior of this button also. Okay,
mhm.
so you can call your own method as well from here. Suppose this return to full wizard is in the wizard class. That's why you are calling this method from the wizard. Okay, but suppose if you want to call a custom logic also from here, right? Custom business
Mhm.
logic. What I could do is I could create the class, and I can suppose, okay, so
So do I
you can
define
you
those in
can
the
see
rule?
that this is the wizard, right? So this
Mhm.
wizard is the object name, which we have defined it here in the required variables. Okay, this is the wizard and this is the variable name. But if suppose you want to have some new method, right? So what you
Mhm.
can do is you can create a new class. Okay, you can
And where
define
do I create those new classes? It's not in the
here.
rule sets, right?
It's not in the rule sets. You can create the new classes in the GSRC folder.
Okay.
So we have the feasibility of creating classes, Gosu classes
And
here.
I can call that particular
Classes here. Yes,
okay.
yes. You have multiple classes here, right?
Mhm,
So suppose you are creating a document.
mhm,
So you can create your own classes here. Right
mhm.
click, new. Okay. If you want to create an enhance, you want to call the enhancement method, you can call an enhancement method also. If you want to call,
Enhancement method is kind of whatever out of box I am enhancing it.
yes, if I'm having some virtual methods, right, virtual properties, so those can be
Mhm,
referenced here in the action property. So it can be defined by me, but the example which I'm giving to you right here, and the claim, when we are clicking on the save button, that is already provided by the guidewire out of the box. So that's
mhm,
why we will not, okay, we'll be able to see, okay, while clicking on the claim button, which method it's going to. Okay,
mhm.
if we'll see the action property of that claim button, but that method would not be visible to us, the definition of that method would not be visible to us.
But
But
on the click of save button, if I want to change the functionality, I can change it.
I can change it, yes, I can change it using the rules. Okay,
Hmm.
I can change it the rules, I can change it using the action property, I can change it, so there are multiple things which I can do to play around with it.
Okay.
Okay. So generally, if suppose I'll give you one example. So suppose when you are clicking on the complete claim button, okay, on the claim center, right?
Mhm,
During that button click, you want to run a validation,
mhm,
okay, and you want to show run a validation, and you want to show something on the screen. It
mhm,
will validate the entire claim, and it will show some or throw some error on the screen based on your validation. So for this purpose, you will not be using the action. You will not be creating a new method, and then you will not be calling that method in the action property. Why? Because we have a concept of validation rules here. Okay,
Mhm.
so whenever a claim entity is created, right, it will automatically go to the validate. Our cursor will go to the validation rule.
Mhm.
Okay, so all the validations I'll be writing it here. So that's why I will not use action property of the claim setup, right? Most of the times, most of the things are handled from here itself, from these
So from
rules itself.
validation, say once the validation is complete, from validation, I can call say the once validation is complete and I have to save it. Can I put that code in the validation or I mean in the rules or it will be in
So
a go-to class which
validation method will be called before the saving logic.
yeah, but
Yeah.
so I hit the save button,
Mhm.
validations ran, and from validations, will it call the save method in a go-to class or
Yes, it is automatic. It is automatic. That's what I'm saying. It's
okay?
automatic.
Mhm. So
If you
before saving, it will just come and run the validation and then.
yeah, that's what. It's automatic, and we don't have the
So
access to in that much access that we can. Yeah.
I understand, but when I'm hitting the save button, I
Mhm.
need to call a save method which I define, right?
If you are defining your own custom method, then it won't come to the valid these rules until and unless if you are suppose you are creating a new you in your new custom method, right? You are creating a new claim object. Okay, as
Mhm.
soon as you will create a new claim object, right, and it will come to these methods, sorry, these rule sets, because these rule sets are run when the object is created, deleted, or edited.
I mean, I cannot create a new object, I mean, custom object and have these validations rule sets run on those objects.
We can do it if you want to have your own custom objects and you want to run the validation on it, then you can do it using gosu classes. Generally
Mhm.
these validation rules are for entity level validations. Okay, means
Okay.
on top of an so there is an entity and you want to validate some part, because here you in these rules you have to define the root entity, right? So
Mhm.
suppose you want to run the validation rule on top of an entity, then you can but in your business logic, right, if you want to define some validations, right, then you can do it using classes also. In the
Mhm.
gosu classes also you can write that logic and throw the exceptions or
So,
displayable
I mean, I
message.
don't have to give it in the rule sets. I can
Yes,
write
yes,
validations in the
yes,
GoSu class.
yes. This is just a feasibility which Guidewire has given. We can completely formulate our entire application without all these rule sets, but these are the leverage which Guidewire has given us to utilize these, so that we can so that it is a packed product, right? So we
Yeah.
can utilize all these concepts and we can come up with the a better uh, solution and code,
Mhm.
a clean code.
Yeah.
So that's why they have segregated their they have segregated everything. So best practices, we can do everything from the code whatever we want, but best practices, if we can utilize these rule sets, best practices to utilize these rule sets.
Mhm.
Okay.
Will they kind of like ask, they might come back and they might ask you to create a new PCF file. I mean, a new screen.
Yeah.
And in the
Yes.
new screen, they might say like, I need to save this in this particular information. So
Mhm.
so I start off with creating the PCF file. And when I'm saving that, I might create a new entity and that particular information should be saved to the new entity.
Yes, yes. So first I need to define, okay. So for that purpose, right? First I need to define the entity. So, okay,
Mhm.
I'll define the new entity in the database or data
Mhm.
model. Then I'll
Mhm.
create a new PCF file. Okay.
Mhm.
And then I will add buttons, add button, save button in the PCF file. So when you will be adding the save button in the PCF file, that save button automatically tells the compiler that this is the save button and the root entity which you have given in this PCF file, right? Whenever user will click that this save button, internally the data which we are providing for the root entity, it will be saved in the database. That's why that's why we have configured the Guidewire has configured the PCF in such a way and save button in such a way. That's why we have different kinds of buttons.
Okay, if I'm giving a save button, then it automatically knows like, okay, this is
Yes.
where.
No need to give the action. We have update button, right? Edit buttons we have. So in edit buttons, when we dragged and dropped the edit buttons, in the action property we did not give anything, right? Because edit buttons, the functionality of edit button itself tells the compiler that as soon as someone click on the edit buttons, all the fields will be editable. Okay, and user will be able to, and we have not defined any action because these are out of the box functionalities.
Got it.
And that's why you don't need to give any action on that part. In that case, just you need to define, you need to know that which widgets and which elements you need to use to have this PCF file. That's it.
Got it.